Hello everyone, my name is Alaa Kamel and today I'll be presenting to you my research about effectiveness of reject brine in removal of phosphorus from wastewater. This is a quick outline of today's presentation. I start by introducing you briefly to the topic, then I'll state my objectives, talk about the materials and methods used, then I'll discuss my results and conclude at the end. Even though there is a massive amount of water on Earth. Only less than 1% of the water available is considered accessible fresh water for human use. And as the population continues to rise, the demand is becoming much more than the supply. So, since 97% of water on Earth is found as salt water in oceans or seas, desalination was considered a promising technique to fill the continuously growing gap between the demand and the supply for fresh water. While desalination is actually efficient in producing potable water, it produces a byproduct called reject brine. Brine is highly saline, almost twice as saline as seawater. It contains many dissolved chemicals that is acquired during the pre-treatment process, and it contains many heavy metals from the corrosion of the pipes. Yet, it is rich in essential minerals like calcium and magnesium. Another drawback to population growth is the increase in the demand for food. And when I say food, I can easily refer to agricultural production. Phosphorus is the main component of agriculture since it is used in the production of fertilizers, and the phosphate rocks, which are the source of the phosphorus, they are diminishing, and therefore new sources of phosphorus must be found. Since some of the wastewaters, like urine or wastewater from several industries, are rich in phosphorus, they can be considered as a potential source to fulfill the need of phosphorus in agriculture. However, direct application of wastewater to land is not advised since first, the wastewater can leak to groundwater, altering its quality significantly, and second, the quality of the food produced might be affected. The food will become contaminated. Therefore, phosphorus recovery from wastewater in the form of struvite was suggested by scientists. Struvite is found in different forms in different places, like in animal bodies or within the wastewater treatment plant in pipes. However, it is considered a slow-release fertilizer. The main elements in struvite are magnesium, phosphorus, and nitrogen. This here is the equation of formation of struvite. As we can see, equimolar concentrations between the nutrients magnesium, nitrogen, and phosphorus are needed for struvite formation. Below are the factors that affect the struvite formation. The main two factors are the molar ratio of nutrients, magnesium to nitrogen to phosphorus, and the pH. In most cases, the limiting nutrient is magnesium because wastewaters are usually rich in nitrogen and phosphorus. Therefore, it is usually added as magnesium chloride or magnesium hydroxide. This addition contributes to around 75% of the cost of the recovery process. Actually, some researchers suggested that if a low-cost magnesium source is used, up to 81% of the cost of the process can be actually reduced. By low-cost magnesium source, I mean like seawater or dolomite or, for example, wastewaters like bitter. Another thing I'll be talking about is the wastewater treatment process. This is a typical process, and I'll be focusing on two things. First, the aeration tank, where the biological treatment takes place. In the aeration tank, a BOD to nitrogen to phosphorus ratio of 100 to 5 to 1 should be maintained in order to ensure that the efficiency is optimized. And the second thing I'll be talking about is the sludge handling process, specifically the dewatering step, which takes place at the end. This dewatering of sludge produces a wastewater known as the centrate, and usually this centrate is recycled back with the influent and undergoes the full treatment process over and over. This centrate contains high concentrations of nutrients such as phosphorus and nitrogen, and as it keeps recycling within the system, the concentrations of the nutrients keeps accumulating. This enhances the growth of struvite in pipes and valves, and this leads to the clogging of them, and hence increase the operation and maintenance cost and decrease the capacity of the treatment plant. Next, as the concentration of these nutrients continue to rise, eventually it will affect the BOD to nitrogen to phosphorus ratio, and this will decrease the efficiency of the biological treatment itself. Therefore, the objectives of this study is to assess the possibility of recovering phosphorus in the form of struvite from synthetic wastewater and centrate using reject brine as a magnesium source. During the experimental procedure, three wastewaters are used. The first of all is the reject brine, which is collected from a local desalination plant that employs reverse osmosis desalination of brackish groundwater. Next wastewater is the centrate that is collected from a local treatment plant, and it's, as mentioned earlier, the effluent of the sludge centrifuging process, the dewatering process. Finally, the synthetic wastewater, which was prepared in the laboratory using ammonium chloride, ammonium phosphate, magnesium chloride, and sodium hydroxide to attain the pH. The experiments were performed using a jar test setup and a fluidized bed reactor. They were performed using synthetic wastewater and centrate to compare the effect of any external ions that might be available in the centrate. pH was recorded before and after the jar test experiment, since a drop in pH indicates phosphorus removal and hence possible precipitate formation. Samples were taken before and after the experiments, and they were tested for phosphorus. This was then used to calculate the percent phosphorus removal using the below equation here. Theoretically, a magnesium to phosphorus ratio of 1 to 1 should be sufficient to produce and form struvite. However, to ensure that the reaction will always go forward and to avoid the effect of other external ions on the struvite formation process, a higher magnesium to phosphorus ratio is always suggested by different researchers. Also, a basic environment is needed for the reaction to occur. Therefore, the pH used in the experiments were 8 to 10 with 0.5 increments, and the magnesium to phosphorus ratios used were 1.3 to 1, 2 to 1, and 3 to 1. These are molar ratios. Next, when using the jar test setup experiments, first the volumes of the wastewaters were added to the beakers according to the ratio, the magnesium to phosphorus molar ratio. 0.5 molar of sodium hydroxide was used to attain each desired pH. All the experiments were performed at room temperature and were performed within 24 hours. The RPM used on the jar test is 100 RPM. Next, the fluidized bed reactor. The conditions used here, the parameters, the pH and the magnesium to phosphorus molar ratio, were according to the results of the jar test experiments. The wastewater was recycled continuously in order to keep the bed fluidized and in order to reach a better phosphorus removal percentage. Finally, the precipitate analysis takes place in order to confirm that the precipitate form is actually struvite and to measure its purity. First, the precipitate was left to air dry and then it was analyzed using SEM-EDX technique for this purpose. This bar chart here shows the final pH after running the experiment for 24 hours during the jar test experiment. The black bars shows the results of the synthetic wastewater runs, and as we can see, significant drop in the pH is noticed. However, the blue bar shows the experiments conducted using centrate, and the drop in pH was not significant. In fact, in some experiments, the pH increased, the final pH increased. These horizontal lines shows the initial set pH, and we can see that some bars actually cross that line. This is explained by the release of carbon dioxide from the centrate as it gets aerated. This another bar chart shows the phosphorus removal percentage with respect to pH and magnesium to phosphorus molar ratio. We can see that in most cases the centrate removal percentage was higher than the synthetic wastewater experiments. This is because centrate contains higher initial concentrations of phosphorus than the ones in synthetic wastewater. A maximum removal of 92% was noticed when using synthetic wastewater as a phosphorus source, and the maximum of 97% was noticed when using centrate as the phosphorus source. As for the fluidized bed reactor, the conditions used were magnesium to phosphorus molar ratio of 3 and the pH of 9. This was, as I mentioned, according to the results of the jar test experiments, and these here are the percent phosphorus removal reached. Next, these charts show the phosphorus removal percentage with respect to pH for both wastewaters used, the synthetic and the centrate. As we can see, higher pH level resulted in better phosphorus removal, even though outliers were detected when using centrate. This confirms with what was concluded earlier by different researchers and different experiments. Similarly, these charts show the phosphorus removal percentage with respect to the magnesium to phosphorus molar ratio. As the molar ratio increases, the phosphorus removal is enhanced. This again complies with what was concluded in earlier studies, and again outliers were detected when using centrate. These are the precipitates collected when using synthetic wastewater and when using centrate as the source of phosphorus. 0.15 grams per liter of precipitate was collected when using the FBR, which the fluidized bed reactor, which is 3 times the amount collected when using the jar test setup. Finally, this is the precipitate analysis step. These are the SEM images. As we can see, the crystal formed are coarse, elongated, they're irregular, they're non-symmetric, they are with various sizes, and they're in most cases coffin shaped. These characteristics are actually comparable with crystals formed in earlier studies, therefore struvite can be confirmed. We can notice that the crystals formed when using synthetic wastewater are smaller and thinner. This is because centrate contains higher initial phosphorus level, which results in higher crystal growth rates. Finally, using the EDX spectrum, the weight percentage was recorded, and using it, the atomic percentage was calculated. This was then used to calculate the magnesium to phosphorus molar ratio found in the precipitate itself. It was found to be 1.1 to 1 when using synthetic wastewater and 0.9 to 1 when using centrate. Since the expected is 1 to 1, we can say this the struvite formed is high quality struvite. So finally, since up to 92 and 97% of phosphorus was actually removed when using both types of wastewater, and since the SEM EDX analysis confirmed that struvite precipitation occurred with high quality, we can conclude that the reject brine is an efficient magnesium source to recover phosphorus as struvite from wastewater. Higher pH levels and higher magnesium to phosphorus ratios are advised in order to achieve higher phosphorus removal percentage. These are my references that were used. I'll be taking your questions in the Q&A session after this presentation is shown. Thank you so much for attending my presentation.